I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mike Mitchell. I'm the training coordinator for the City of Fargo. And today we have a lot of Fargo employees represented in the crowd. And one housekeeping note, if you are from the City of Fargo, I have a sign-in roster in the back so I can record everyone's attendance in Launchpad. If you're not from the City of Fargo, I want to thank you for coming. I did invite a lot of our community partners, and I know we have the Fargo Park District and a lot of different entities represented today. So I want to thank you guys for coming out on this rainy day and coming to listen to Ricky White. With that being said, Ricky is a dynamic presenter, and I had the opportunity to watch him present at a Fargo Library all-staff meeting, and it was one of the most impactful presentations that I've ever seen. And as a training coordinator, I see a lot of presentations, literally hundreds a year that I watch. So this is a real dynamic presentation that Ricky gives. The message is very powerful. Ricky is a locally and nationally recognized presenter in Native American culture. So we are honored to have him here today. And Ricky, as a token of our appreciation for attending, I brought you a gift. And I'll let you enjoy that at a later time. With that being said, I would like to introduce Ricky White.
Folks, Michael Mitchell. I've got to be honest, this gentleman just showed some cultural intelligence here today in front of all of you. Native Americans, in our use of a sacred medicine called tobacco that we gifted to the world, was offered to me today. And I know we know tobacco. I'm actually pretty proud of one of our tribal chairmen from Turtle Mountain being on TV talking about the use and how it's used today was never how we ever intended it to be used. And what this gentleman just did for me today was in this beautiful offering. He invited me with an offering of tobacco. And when I say cultural intelligence, folks, he's been exposed to that teaching before. He's been in the company of seeing how that works. To know that when a Native American is offered tobacco in this way, that there is a spirit of invitation, there's a spirit of comfort, there's a spirit of recognition, it's honoring, and folks, without even saying any of those words, I feel respected. I feel like I belong here this morning. And so it's a deep honor to be able to receive this tobacco. Cultural intelligence, in its true definition, it means that you are going to behave in certain ways with a culture that might not be your own. And you're going to behave in ways because of what you know about that culture, just like the people that are of that culture would use it. So in using that tobacco, that's exactly how Native people utilize it, folks. That is cultural intelligence. It has nothing to do with smart or the other word, right? It has nothing to do with that hierarchical thing. It's just that you will know how this happens and how this works. So this is not part of my slide deck this morning. And it is going to be part of what I'm going to be taking all of you all on in this journey. So I want to say miigwech. Miigwech, yes.
I like to throw a curveball every now and then.
Oh, I love it. And what I do with this offering here, folks, and I actually had tobacco of my own that I brought. You see, when we're going to begin here, since this was offered to me, I'm going to take just a little pinch of this tobacco. Take a moment, think about it. The spirit of what was offered today to invite and speak to all of you in this way today is also in the passing of this tobacco. And I want to put it in this little birch bark basket that my 81-year-old mother provided to me in these type of settings. And I'm deeply honored to be able to do this. You see, folks, Native American best practices is a journey that I'm going to put you all on here today, these next 10 hours or so. You know, when you're in a journey, folks, in your minds, it really will go beyond that. That's my intent here today. I intend to touch you emotionally. I intend to touch you up here in your minds as well. If you've ever heard me speak, I apologize for the repetition. And at the same time, if you've ever heard me speak, repetition is a good thing, because the journey of those same storylines that you'll hear will go deeper. I recognize a few of you in the audience. But I wanted to start by saying this with this deep honor. I'm so honored for this invitation to be here in front of our mayor, in front of all of you, the staff that are here, to be in front of a champion for many of our people, Mr. Brandon Beatty, that's also here from the Indigenous Association. And this is being streamed live on Facebook, right on the City of Fargo, and I'm honored to be able to do that as well. I think part of this awakening here, folks, is so many of you end up having contact with Native people. And a lot of times we might not know, let's just say, a storyline or some things that may be happening or have happened in the lives of those folks that you end up meeting. You see, I intentionally made my way up 4th Street on my way here. And I sat kind of on the side of the street a little bit, because I know what is also available there that the city has built. It's called the Engagement Center. And I looked and I counted how many Native people are making their way there. And it was an awful lot of them, folks, already down the streets that are making their way there. And we're going to talk about that here today. We're going to talk about why. Why is that the case? Why is it that I just heard here again this morning that Native people make up at least about 30% of our homeless population here in this beautiful city? Okay? We'll talk a little bit about that today. And maybe apply some of this intelligence, let's call it, or competence, right? You hear that word, cultural competence. We're going to apply that here today, folks, because where I'm going to hit you, I know you've got a printout, you're going to take notes. I'm going to hit you up here, I'm going to hit you here, folks. And as we get into this journey, once again, honored to be here. And you are already paying me such deep respect by connecting with the words that I'm saying. I haven't even introduced myself to you, and yet you're already listening. I appreciate that. So this is me. And the theme for everything that I do is what is good for Native Americans is good for all. When I speak to educators, principals, school administrators, I say what's good for Native American students is good for all students. These concepts, these teachings, these things that you're all going to leave here with today are good for everyone. The decency of relationships, how we create belonging, all these things, folks, are a catalyst for making our lives a better place. Okay? And this will be our guide here today. Folks, you are going to receive teachings here today that are ancestral, that are sacred, but that are known and many unknown. You've already been exposed to one with this tobacco offering. The next one is this way of smudging. Smudging. When I was with Cass County Jail 4 times, I told folks I went to jail 4 times here about a month ago on their training schedule. And I showed all of those coppers, those folks in the jail, and I showed them a bundle of sage. And I said, if you pulled me over, right, and you saw this on my chair, what would you be thinking? Hey? Right? Yeah, because our intelligence, our connections with the world have kind of described that this is something probably illegal, probably some kind of drug paraphernalia, and I'm going to get the dogs on you, right? Folks, I am proud to say that those coppers are now leaving with an elevator speech. Elevator speech. A statement that every one of you could say, I was in a training with a guy named Ricky White, and he shared smudging with all of us and the meaning of it all. What a great thing. Good for you for smudging. Hey? Think of the next time those state coppers pull over somebody and they see this in there. Looking forward to the city coppers hearing this. right? And seeing Sage and saying, oh, do you smudge? Good for you. I was in a training with the guy named Ricky White. Can you imagine that conversation? Yes, I know you still got to go through every piece of your work and the things that you need to do, but that acknowledgement, folks, talk about de-escalation, hey? My goodness, something like this. And the way I was taught by grandma, folks, is just a little piece. It's all we need. Just a little piece. And as you see on this guide here that I have, this beautiful poster, and again, teachings from Ricky, folks. We think about these things. I tell you, and I only ask you, the burden that I have for all of you is to speak to the teaching. Speak to where you got this knowledge. Speak to how it affected you, what you applied to it in your own way. But here's what we do. We light it. Take a little time with it, folks. You're going to hear some things today. Any of you that have experienced any trauma in your life, emotional, physical, let's just say sexual trauma in your life, I light a little bit of this sage for you as well, to give you strength, to give you healing, but to also provide you with some support. Okay? You see, when we smudge, folks, it's a way of calming, it's a way of relaxing. In a world where we see so much indifference, all you need to do is turn on the news and we have division. We have a way with social media and interaction now where we've lost an ability to problem solve. And we've lost an ability to have these kind of interactions where we can just sit down and work together, even if we have differences. One of the things that Native people used for thousands of years was this way of smudging, where we would calm ourselves in a sense to get ourselves in a moment to then clear our minds. As you see in the guide, right? You know, a fresh set of eyes, reset my eyes. I want to see the good in others. I want to hear good things, good words, good thoughts. Hey? Of course, our minds, folks, we want to calm our minds, this thing that can have some devastating parts of our everyday and the choices that we make. I want to get some of that clarity. I want to speak good words for all of you here today. Hey? Give me a little help with some words here today as I smudge. And then, of course, my heart. I come with a good heart here today, folks. And oftentimes you'll see these steps, this journey that we're going to all go on here today. And folks, I'll be honest with you. I did not ask for permission to do this here today. I'm the cultural specialist for Fargo Public Schools, and I smudge, and students offer tobacco every single time they're with me. We have a high school class for credit where students are able to take Native American cultural studies in high school and get credit under social studies. And every time they walk in, they offer tobacco and we smudge. I have students that take anxiety medicine, and when they say, Ricky, I don't take my anxiety medicine when I have your class, because I know that this stuff does very similar things to what that medicine does. Right? It's a real thing, folks. This is another teaching that is now as simple as I've explained it, as gently as I've explained it to you. This is now part of your knowledge. All I ask, speak to the teaching, folks. Where did you get the knowledge? Honor and respect the impact of you witnessing this. And of course, there's this guide, and I'll be honest, and I know, folks, this guide here, I disagree with one word in this beautiful sheet of paper, the word prayer. You see, we don't often, yes, there is time for prayer. We pray at times, not every time when we smudge. It does have a deep sense of your spirituality when you, right, go through the motions with it, but it's not a prayer necessarily. This is a way of life. But I'll tell you, I was walking down the aisles of Walmart, right here at 52nd Avenue, and I'm walking down the aisles, and right at the end of an aisle, right, I see this piece of paper, 8.5 by 11, and it's right there. So for $3.88, every one of you can go and buy yourself this guide. They've got everything at Walmart, don't they, right? You know, oh my goodness. But this was right there. Go on the internet, Google it, right? Walmart.com, and go into the search and type in smudging. You will find this guide. It's a beautiful guide. And I will just say this, that word prayer goes into a little deeper sense. And there's no question there are times where we do pray. However, this is something that we just simply do. This is just part of our way of life. And this too now is part of what you know. And it's yours. When I say it's yours, folks, absolutely. This is a gift to you. The students that take this course, it is open to any student, black, white, Asian, early immigrant, Somali, they're all in there. And after about a month, they all go home with a bundle. That same bundle. They all go home with a bundle and a shell. Okay? What is good for Native Americans is good for everyone. And I guarantee you, each and every one of those young students could speak to what and how this affects them. We need this stuff, folks. The world today, we're filled with mental health issues and challenges. We could use a little bit of medicine, folks, to guide us. Trust me. Today at my kitchen table, hey? Yeah, to start the day. And right here in front of all of you, you witnessed this. It is yours. Speak to it. Speak to it. Oop, wrong way. So I also have a course at NDSU, two graduate credit course. It's offered monthly, and it's taken off. I think there are so many folks that just don't quite know about the original people of this land. I think we see them, and we see a lot of our people in the news, and we see a lot of information out there. And unfortunately, folks, too much of it is not good. And we need to kind of uncover maybe some deeper storylines on why that is, hey? Why that is. So that's what we're going to do here today. Here's another teaching for you, folks. Medicine wheel. You will have this slide deck shared with you. And one thing I ask, put this up in your offices if you have any contact with Native American people. Put this up there, okay? Because you see, with the medicine wheel, teachings galore in this thing, folks. We start in the east. We always start in the east, that yellow area. You see, our native ways of learning, we need to see it first. My goodness, so many of you have different things that are available to help support our people. And a lot of that ends up being documents that you have to fill out and all of these things. I'm telling you, folks, give us a hand. Show us what those documents look like. Show us what they are. Show us why they're important. But pictures, anything that you can show us to connect with that learning. We need to see it first, folks. Pictures, very important. When I walk into a building, just like I walked into here, came through the north entrance, and I walked by and I saw all those 5 tribal nations flags there. I just stopped and I just said, Howa. Howa in Ojibwe means good. Like, I stopped and paused. I'm like, man, that feels really good. If I walked around into offices and I saw this there, Howa, it would. And by the way, folks, yeah, it's okay to name drop this stuff. If they are Native, are you Native? Oh, yeah, I am. Oh, hey, what'd you think of what did you think of the picture? It describes the Native American way of learning, because we need to see things, folks. And then we need to feel it. Tell us stories, describe it to us. Give us this narrative of what it is that we're trying to learn or what we need to know. So we need to feel it. And you're going to feel it here today. You're going to see some things, and you are going to feel some of this stuff in action, because only then do we want to start doing something about it. You're going to feel, when you leave here, you're going to feel like, oh my gosh, there's some things that I need to do. Whatever it is that you do, in your line of work or as a citizen, whatever it might be. There's some things that you're going to feel like you need to do when you leave here. I guarantee you that. And what we say is only then do we actually know it. So seeing it, feeling it, doing it, and knowing it. Take a picture of it. Whatever you need to do, folks. This is a pathway right here. And you're all going to go through this here today. You're going to go through this here today. Let's dig in, folks. I've barely even told you who I am. And you're all, for the most part, I get it. I know Wednesday morning it's raining. I haven't even told you one real thing about me, but you're already listening. Hey? Haven't even told you who I am. You're already trusting me in a way with this stuff. Because there's some things that you probably didn't know. And so we get curious. Our minds get curious. And so this guide will kind of lead us here today, but there'll be some ebbs and flows because we need some things from you. And one of those things, folks, is how we create belonging, how we create a welcoming environment, how we create connections with other people. It's literally, when I came in here, I heard a lot of hellos. I heard a lot of greetings. I heard a lot of those kind of connections. I'm going to give one to you here today that you're all going to learn. You're all going to have this exposure. And when you leave here, I'll even share a 1.5-minute YouTube video with you on introducing yourself in Ojibwe. One of about 40 different tribal nations. I don't know if you all know this. Right here in Fargo, 40 different tribal nations, at least, are represented here. Not just the 5 in North Dakota, but over 40 from all over the United States and Canada make their home and life right here. Whether they're Ojibwe, Dakota, Choctaw, Seminole, Cherokee, all across the United States, they make this their place. 40 different tribal nations. So, yeah, you, like me, can't learn 40 different ways, but we're going to give you one. Because if you can use just one, hey, I was in a training with a guy named Ricky White, and he taught us how to introduce ourselves in Ojibwe. So we're going to apply that. Because, folks, here's what I got to tell you. Here it is. Here's my introduction. Here we go. Take a moment and listen to this. Bonjour. Niga nanakut ndigo. Pishio nindotem. Not komigo aning anishinabe. And Ricky White. Deja shagana shijanikaz. Apachiganin niminandan. Waginita nishinabe moan. Meet niagitin away with nan. Kagija minago is young anishinabe ang. Gikandan we nego. Kanganige ama. Kinawa maga namat the big. Kinasit is the same oa. Kajan shinabe an. Mitish maga on jibitig. Maga jitang. Anishinabe. Amage aug. Gikandan we nego. Hey na big. Kinasit is the same. Migo minik apigi kitan. Miigwech. Miigwech. Yeah. Anyone understand? A couple of words maybe, right? Right? Yeah, everywhere I go, folks, that language. And I've got to say it this way, right here where City Hall's built, and when you go home, your home's the land where you go home to. The language I just spoke is the original language that was spoken here, along with Dakota, right? North Dakota, named after the Dakota people. Now, I don't speak Dakota. My daughter's half Dakota, from Sisseton, Wahpeton, okay? But I know Dakota means friendly, welcoming people. I know that. But here's the deal, folks. Here I'm speaking this language, and I actually was talking about all of you. I talked about you. I was saying, here I am speaking this language, very proud to speak this language here to all of you today. But there is nobody in the audience that even understands what I'm saying. And yet that is the original language that we are occupying right now here. To say it this way, folks, the language I'm speaking now is, yes, a foreign language here. And to say English the way we speak it today is only about 600 years old. Yeah, only about 600 years old. This language I'm speaking now today that we all speak, that the world speaks over and over, only about 600 years old. That language I just spoke, thousands. Hey? Not just ancient, but it has been around a long time. And here's the deal, folks. If I was sitting in here and all of you were Ojibwe and you were right here in Fargo, it would be the same. Many of you would still not know what I said in the language. That is a reality. I have no one that I could speak to all day, all night in that language here locally. And the reality is that it is a near extinction level reality. We could count on all of our hands in here, probably the number of speakers that are left. And if you think of the Anishinaabe, here's some geography for you. North of 94, right here in North Dakota, you have Turtle Mountain, Chippewa, as they call them, right? Turtle Mountain, Band of Chippewa. You go from here to Minneapolis, north of 94, you have 7 Ojibwe reservations. You keep going to Chicago and into Wisconsin, north of 94 and 90 again in Wisconsin, a lot more Ojibwe nations. You swing around from Chicago and go to Detroit, Upper Peninsula, Michigan, again, 7, 8 more Anishinaabe reservations. So that language would be a primary, and yet very few speak. Very few know what I just said to all of you. The honor of introducing my spirit name, the clan that I come from, the land. Land acknowledgement is in every one of our introductions. We honor the land. And of course, we're thankful to be here. And yet nobody speaks. Why? What happened? We're going to go on that journey. Because if you can help with that, folks, that would be a good deed. So what we're going to do here today, okay? Everyone, let's say bonjour. Everyone, bonjour. Bonjour. Oh, wow, that means hello. Any French in here? Any French? So, parlez-vous français, right? Je m'appelle Monsieur Blanche, right? Bonjour. Bonjour, right? French people always say to me, man, you guys stole our word for hello. And I keep saying to the French, Anishinaabe is older than French. So if anything, you guys, they borrowed our word from us, right? But very close and means the same thing. It's kind of ironic. But bonjour, everybody. Bonjour. Any native person, I'm not kidding, even if they're not one of the 40 tribal nations, greet them in that language, bonjour. Let's start there. And you're going to need some help with your elbow partners today. I got to get you working and get you busy a little bit. Here is the phrase to introduce yourself. And I'm not kidding. Yeah, I got Niga Nanakut there. Number 2. We look at number 2. Niga Nanakut. You see, folks, Native people, all tribal nations, we never had surnames. We never had surnames. This name White is, again, planted on us. When we were lined up and the government wanted to get all of our roles and all of our names, okay, what's your name? We would give them our name, and then they'd say, well, what's your last name? We don't have one. And literally, written right there, they would just plant us, oh, well, you live over by I know a lot of my Dakota relatives, you live over by the Tuttle farmers there, so we'll just give you the last name Tuttle. And then when they tried to translate our name, Wabashkimiigwan, like a white feather type thing, the Indian agent understood white, Wabshke, so okay, we'll just throw in white there. So now your entire family and lineage, you're now white, so Ricky White. Folks, we didn't have surnames. So anywhere I go, I just go and I say I'm Ricky. Anywhere I go, even in Fargo Schools hasn't said anything to me yet by saying, hey, you really need to be Mr. White here, Mr. White. Yeah, okay. Students call me Ricky. They walk in, they call me Ricky. And we build respect, folks, with that tobacco offering and how we treat each other. That's the bottom line, how we end up treating each other. That is the ultimate respect that we can do. Beyond our names, beyond our titles, right? How I treat you, I want to treat you so well, folks. Because you know what, my name? It means leader in front of the cloud. So from birth, I've been kind of trained and groomed to be a leader. But you know what Grandma told me? True leadership, Nigananakut, is people are going to feel good about themselves just having met you. Hey? Put that into your leadership. That folks are going to feel good about themselves just having met you by your charisma, by your smile. Right? Grandma told me this a lot of times. You meet people, give them that smile. Hey? You know, but how I end up treating you, how I'm kind and careful with you. Gentle, even, folks. I could put this mic down like this, and you can hear me. You can hear the tenderness of my voice. I don't need to yell and shout. Okay? I don't need to command. You all need to listen to me here today because we have a problem here in the city of Fargo. We have a Native American problem. They're lined up right now at the engagement center, right? The highest represented in the jails, the highest represented, right, you know, in homelessness and poverty. By the way, folks, the number one killer right now of the Native American between 10 and 35, murder and suicide. So you all had better sit here and listen to me. Folks, how did that feel? Whew. Right? We know there's some things happening. But what I just said to all of you can be a little, oh my goodness. You're hearing me now and you're feeling me now, just spraying some of that information. But folks, let's go on this journey on how we can help. How I can help you here and how I can help you here. So everyone, bonjour. Bonjour. I'm going to use my English name. And notice, seeing it, remember? Show us the answers. I'm telling you, you give me a multiple choice test or a true and false test, I will fail it today, even if I know what I'm doing. That's just something for me. I really suck at standardized tests, you know. But hey, folks, it's up here. So we're going to speak and we're going to introduce ourselves to each other. And here's the phrase. Oh, man, I know. Look at you. You're already starting to smile. Here we go. You're going to speak it. So I would say, Ricky Nindigenekas, or Indigenekas. The N is a little silent. It's there, but it's a little silent. So you'll hear more folks say Indigenekas, Indigenekas, Indigenekas. I'm going to say it twice and we'll do a choral response, meaning I'm going to invite you all to say the phrase with me. So here it is. Indigenekas, Indigenekas, Indigenekas. So you would say your name first, okay? So I would say Ricky Indigenekas. Ricky Indigenekas. With your elbow partners, say bonjour and introduce yourself to your elbow partners. If you don't know each other, smile. It works, right? You know, it does. It helps. It gets us a little, right? You know, moving, shaking. Right here, the two of you. Oh yeah, you could. I'm sure he can still hear you. So right there, bonjour, bonjour. Ricky Indigenekas. Chime in right here. Yeah, right here. Here you go. Oh my goodness, here we go. Woo! Indigenekas. Bonjour. Bonjour. Here we go. My French partner. Here we go. Bonjour. Ricky Indigenekas.
Bonjour, Tara Indigenekas.
Oh, give it up for Tara, everybody. Oh my goodness, eh? Right? And you know, sometimes, here's the deal with the language, folks. I and all my my linguist friends, very talented folks. See, I grew up speaking the language. I grew up on this isolated reservation, so I heard the language frequently in my home and all over the place. Fortunately, it's not the case anymore. So I never actually wrote it down as well. What you need to know, folks, is our language never was written down. Only in the last 35 years have we actually adopted an official orthography called the double vowel system. Linguists cringe when they see me writing it like this with hyphens and whatnot, because speaking it, yeah, we need this help. You need to learn that double vowel system first, right, in order for you to actually start pronouncing them, because it is some funky looking language. So 5 syllables, Nindigenekas. So this is how I write it so that we can speak it. Bonjour, Ricky Nindigenekas. Brad Indigenekas. Folks, sometimes when we do it this way, and here's knowing that geography, if you met an Ojibwe person, North of 94. And there's one reservation in Montana, by the way, Rocky Boy, Montana. Rocky Boy, Chippewa. They're in Montana, north of 94 again, or 90. If you just pronounced it that way. Sometimes we also got to wrap it, right? Nindigenakas, you know? My palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on my sweater already. Mom spaghetti, right? A little M&M, right? You know, you kind of have to wrap it every now and again, you know? Folks, if you speak the language that way, we will still understand you, okay? Yes, to build fluency, right? You need practice. But if you said to me, you're driving through Minnesota, you're up in the northern part, or maybe you're going, let's stay in North Dakota, if you're, you know, going past Devil's Lake and you're going up to Turtle Mountain and you meet some Turtle Mountainers and, you know, hey, bonjour, Tara, Brad, Nindigenakas. Oh, hey. Or Brad, Nindigenakas, right? You know, like folks, yeah, it takes practice to frame it into your minds, right? You know, but folks, we would understand you. We would understand you. And here's the thing, 40 different tribal nations here. They might say to you, I'm not Ojibwe. And here's the elevator speech. I was in a training with a guy named Ricky White, and he taught us how to introduce ourselves in Ojibwe. And he said, that Ojibwe isn't the only tribal nation here, so this would be a possibility, but I just wanted to honor the language and at least give it a try and share it and introduce myself in one of those original languages that are right here. That, folks, is still only a 15-second elevator speech, right? You know, the highest elevator is 30 seconds. So if you could do that, folks, fantastic. I'm giving you tools, right, for the next Native American you see. Let's talk about that for a second before we scaffold and have you introduce where you're from. What do you call us? What in the heck do you call our people? Well, if you were that guy 500 years ago that was lost at sea, right, you know, who had no clue where he was, supposed to go to India, right, you know, this guy lost at sea, best navigator on a ship ever, right, you know, and he leaves Spain and he's supposed to go around the Horn of Africa and make his way to India. Well, he ended up landing on our East Coast. And as he saw the peoples come out, he said, oh, well, I'm supposed to be in India, so these must be Indians. Indians, right? Beautiful guy, I think. I never met him, but his name's Christopher Columbus, right? You know? And that guy coined us, named us, wrote it in his manuscripts, and we've been Indians ever since, hey? I often say, thank goodness he wasn't looking for Tasmania. You know, we'd all be a bunch of Think about how crazy, we'd be Tasmanians right now. He would have called us Tasmanians, you know? But what do you call us? Native American is okay. It really is. It's okay. American Indian is also okay. Indigenous people is okay. All three of those are okay. Let them, people call ourselves Indians, by the way. We use that word, you know. Let us call us that. But here's what you could really do. Talk about relations. When you meet that next Native American person, ask them what tribal nation they're from. And then even deeper, ask them what language the people speak and call them that. Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, call me that. If I'm a Dakota and you call me Dakota because you dug a little deeper with your relation, little joking here, there, some of the things you've shown them, what tribal nation you're from, right? Or what language do your people speak? Call them that. Reality is, folks, every time I meet with groups of students, I ask them what tribal nation they're from, and I'm going to say about half of them don't even know. They have an idea, and we start going into geography. Well, where did Grandma and Grandpa grow up? And we dig a little deeper. We're going to answer a little bit on that. Why are there lineups going to the engagement center? Eh? Why are those statistical things there? Why is it that only 20 to 30% of Native American children by grade 3 are proficient in reading and math, the worst performing? Why is it that only 50% of our kids are graduating high school? Hey? Why? Why is that happening? Hey? Because if you're like a lot of my buddies who say to me, Ricky, why can't you guys just get a job, right? McDonald's is paying 17 bucks an hour, right? You know, yes, I understand all of that. And I'm sure a lot of you are probably saying that too. I'm not planting excuses here. But when we get to that layer here, folks, you'll see where I'm coming from. So, Buju, Rikin Indijnikas. And if I was going to say it this way, I would say Fargo, Nindun Jiba. Who? Fargo, Nindun Jiba. I could say Chicago, Nindun Jiba. Hey, I can't wait to hear Hovind say it. Huh? Fargo, Nindun Jiba. Here's the phrase. Nindun Jiba. Nindun Jiba. Nindun Jiba. I'll say it twice. Choral response. Nindun Jiba. Nindun Jiba. Nindun Jiba. Nindun Jiba. Hey, this one, I like to sing it. Hey, I like to sing it. I do. You ready? Nindun Jiba, Nindun Jiba, Nindun Jiba, Nindun Jiba, Nindun Jiba, Nindun Jiba, Hawimbowe, Hawimbowe, Nindun Jiba. Right? You know, hey folks, whatever you need to do to remember, hey, including that 1.5 minute YouTube video that you'll all be getting. Yeah, I have a YouTube channel, right? How to introduce yourself in Ojibwe. You all know how to use a keyboard just like me. You don't even need to be brown and native like me to get the same results as I do, right? You know, you'll get them, right? 1.5 minutes to see if to remind you. So with your elbow partners, 3 phrases. This is called scaffold learning, okay? Buju, Rikin Indijnikas, Fargo, Nindun Jiba. Introduce yourselves with your partners. Go ahead. Anishinaabe, speak, speak. Buju, Rikin Indijnikas, Fargo, Nindun Jiba. Buju, Buju, Rikin Indijnikas, Fargo, Nindun Jiba. Good to meet you. Good to meet you. All right. So, Buju, Rikin Indijnikas,
Anna Nindijinakas,
Fargo, Nindun Jiba.
Fargo Nindun Jiba.
Oh, man, give it up for Anna, right? You know? Oh, yeah. Man, I want to go to the guy in the Fargo Parks here. Oh, you ready? You ready? Fargo Parks are in the house. Give it up for Fargo Parks here, folks. You know, these, I got to tell you, driving down to Davie, seeing the sidewalks coming in, seeing like just what's happening there. Hey, let's hit the land, hey? More we can get out. You want a remedy for health and healing? Guarantee you. Oh, yeah. Let's get out there, huh? Let's see the beauty of what we have here. Buju. Rikin Indijnikas.
Tyler Nindijinakas.
Fargo Nindun Jiba.
Fargo Nindunjiba.
Holy man, give it up for this guy, right? Right? I guarantee you, he could use this. He could use this. Great phonetics. But imagine if he didn't have the guide. Imagine he didn't have the orthography up here and you needed to just simply go from here in your reaction. Because I guarantee you, folks, when that door hits you in the butt when you leave, if you do not use any of this, you will forget it. You will forget it, okay? So hence, we'll give you some support, okay? That YouTube video will be on its way, okay? You can listen to it in the car, whatever have you, do it with the family, you know? It's a beautiful thing. I will tell you this, that next phrase, Gigawabamin, that first one, you see Gigawabamin, who? Ojibwe, by the way, folks, if you look it up in the Guinness Book of World Records, it is in there as one of the most complicated languages to learn. Why? It is the opposite of the one that I'm speaking now. English is all based on that noun, person, place, or thing, right? Ojibwe and all of our native, indigenous, American Indian, or these original people's language of this land here, are all verb-based. Descriptive based. So we describe things. So when we describe things, You know what's beautiful about it? Is you're already involved in the language. You are already a part of it. You are a part of everything that is being described and talked about. The connection is already there. And how many people speak this language in Fargo? Right? They might understand a little, but that too is lost and gone. Eh? And when I say gone, reawakening. You'll see a lot of things popping up here. And as a city, that is one of the invitations. If there's something we can do, let's invest in reawakening that. Because I'm telling you, folks, we're going to go on a journey and maybe identify a little bit on why. Why is it that even with Fargo Parks, as you're out there doing your beautiful care and manicuring of lawns, that you may find some homeless folks on the banks of the Red River or wherever have you, park bench, downtown, wherever have you. And I'm going to beg and say, just from this contents area, we know many cultures are represented there. And I could probably almost flip a coin that it'd be a Native person, highest represented. Why? What's going on there? Hey, what's going on there? This is an engagement way, and we could end it by saying Miigwech, folks. So Gigawabamin, let's all say Gigawabamin. Gigawabamin, it means see you later. You're going to find, folks, in any of our indigenous languages, there is no word for goodbye in any of our languages. Not a word for it. Instead, we acknowledge and we say, we'll see you again. We'll see you again sometime. So when you see me and you connect with me now that we've connected in this way, you've seen the tobacco offering, you've seen the smudging, you're connecting in that way, you're starting to know a little more probably than when you first came in here. And when we see each other at the mall or anywhere, hey, bonjour, if that's what you remember. Hey, all right, you're going to get this from me. You'll get this probably from me anyway, but it might be one of these if we just meet. You see, chinning for Native Americans is a real thing. You see what I just did? It's like, hey, I respect you. I don't really know you, though, so it's going to be kind of this chin down. When we know each other, Brad, and you say bonjour, it'd be, oh, yeah, hey, yeah. You see where my chin is? You see the opening, the spirit? You see it's such an enlightening thing. And most of you, whatever your jobs might be, you'll see our Native people likely like this, even if there is some relation there. And oftentimes you might even see it like this, or, maybe even at our worst. That's just where things have gone. We have a trust issue. I'm going to say it that way. That's innate. That's part of what has happened and basically started when we were born. And we'll tell you why, a little bit on why that is. It's nothing to do with you as a bad person, or if we think you're that R word, or any of those things, right? There's just some things that have happened. And there's some things in the back of our mind, and maybe even spoken about at our kitchen tables to give us a pre-warning, And maybe that's another reason why our attendance rates in schools, our attendance rates at other things is typically the worst. We'll talk about that. Help us out a little with this language. Miigwech, folks. How about Miigwech? Miigwech, thank you. Miigwech, everybody? Miigwech, Miigwech. Here you go, folks. It's another reason why I smudged right here. Okay? This is the reality. In the state of North Dakota right now, last I read, this is a year ago, over 1,300 Native children in foster care. Over 900 of them are Native. Why? Why is it that 1 in 4 Native children born will likely, and not likely, but are in foster or adoptive care? Why? Why is this the case? Why is this a reality? Why is it, again, you see 50 Native students graduate? Why is murder and suicide? Hey, what is the deal? Hey, do we not love our own kids? Do we not love our own people? Why is this a reality? that you see up here, folks. Highest disparities in health, education, and again, the highest represented in the prison system, yet we're always the smallest population. I heard today that 30% of the homeless population is Native, but yet we're the smallest population here in the city of Fargo, yet the highest represented there. Why? What is going on? Folks, what we need to do is we need to understand what happened. And maybe in the midst of this, we need to understand and say this: ask not is what is wrong with you, but maybe what happened. See, I don't know any of you, really, on what your journey was getting here. I don't know what was going on in your lives, in your homes, in your families. I don't know if there's been loss or something that has happened recently. I don't know any of that. But I know that that could affect you, just being here. And that smudge is an offering to you for that. So this here, folks, I'm going to go into a narrative and a story for you today. And I'll start it by telling you this. I FaceTimed my 81-year-old mom, and I'm hoping she's watching, because this is live on Facebook right now, on City of Fargo. And I hope my 81-year-old mom is watching from the depth of our tribal nation in Whitefish Bay First Nation, in the middle of Lake of the Woods, an island. And my 81-year-old mom lives by herself in the bush. And I FaceTime her most every day, right? Most every day we talk. Because this story that I'm going to tell you, teachings from Ricky, folks. So you've had some tobacco teachings, you've had some smudging teachings, you've had some language teachings, you've had some medicine wheel teachings, some Native American, right, understandings and ways of life. And folks, now today, you're going to have another teaching on what intergenerational and historical trauma is, right? And what it feels like to have that as part of your experience. This is my Ricky White and my Robbie Adamson story. You see, folks, this story begins December 24th, 1983. December 24th, 1983, I was 12 years old, right? And then, of course, all of you know what that date is, right? You know, it's Christmas Eve, you know, next day we're opening presents, right? You know, well, unfortunately in my home, there was a ruckus. And it was my alcoholic dad in a mode that was frequent. I'm the baby of 4. And on this Christmas Eve, there was some mass destruction, folks, happening in our home. The violence and the things that I saw that day are still embraced in my mind like I'm in there right now today. But I remember seeing my twin sisters, Sheila and Shelley, trying to hold this big man back, hands in the air, my brother-in-law that was there. But I quickly realized what he was doing. As he broke through them, I looked on the other side and I could see my 5'3". My mom's about 90 pounds today. She was maybe 100 then. And I could see that he was getting to her. And right before he got to her, folks, my mom did this. She took her glasses off. Took her glasses off because this was not the first time. Okay? And folks, I won't describe to you the things that I saw and what I witnessed, but that violence is etched in my mind. The alcoholism, the smell of booze, the smell and the things that I heard. It's like it's right now. I'm seeing it right now. It's not even a blur. It's like it's a movie. Every time I share the story, it's right now. And folks, life in our home was very different from that day on. You know, it was very, very different. That December 24th, we didn't have Christmas like we normally did. Okay, Dad was not really visible much in my life at that point. And here's what ended up happening. See, this isolated reservation, I'm on the Canadian side of Lake of the Woods, Whitefish Bay First Nation. It's an island, one way in, one way out, folks. We actually just got the plumbing turned on that year. So grew up without running water. Yeah, an outhouse my whole life. Okay? But here's the thing, folks. Throughout all of that, I didn't feel like we were impoverished because we had the land, right? Lived off the land. The hunting, fishing, outdoors was just frequent. But there was also that, and it wasn't just me. I remember talking to my cousins, my friends, and it was the lateral thing. What happened last night to you? You know, it was like a norm, folks, of an everyday life. But it was decided at that point that I was going to move to the local town of Kenora. It'd be like somebody moving from White Earth to here, that distance, about an hour's distance. And you see, folks, when we moved to Kenora, it was just me and my mom, right? And we moved in with stepdad at that point, right? Already she was with, right? But here's the thing, folks, we didn't just move to that local town of Kenora. We moved about 16 miles north in the bush on this logging road. And I remember as a young, now I'm 13, this is now June, right, of 1984 now. And I'm telling you, I was a very angry young boy, very angry at many things, and mostly angry at my mom. Why did you take me away from my res and my home? Why did you take me away from all my friends, my family? And what did you do to Dad to make him do that stuff to you? Like, I was mean and mad like that, folks. Hey? But I remember my mom. I remember one sunny day in that summer day in June, she said, "Hey, I've got a bike for you." And you know, I'm not quite sure where she, you know, got everything, but she bought me a brand new bike. And then at that point, she also, I think she was trying to bribe me, right? She was trying to bribe me with some gifts. She bought of technology, a Sony Walkman. Hey, a Sony Walkman, right? It was black, right? Waterproof, right there on my hip. Only cassette tape. And I swear, my mom has probably never bought another cassette tape in her life, but it was probably right there beside that Sony Walkman. The cassette tape, Cyndi Lauper. Hey, you know, right? You know, and I think she had blue hair at the time. I think it's pink now, right? You know, she just got recognized. But that tape, folks, she was the number one artist at the time, right? 1984, Girls Just Want to Have Fun, time after time. I listened to that thing for hours and hours and hours. But I remember one sunny day, folks, I decided I was going to take off from our little house. And I remember as I was riding my bike away, I could see my mom. I could see her in this little picture window that was right off the kitchen. And everything was kind of written on her face, like, "What's up with my boy?" Yeah, we didn't have no internet. We had no cell phones. We had none of this stuff, folks, for connectivity, right? But there goes her young boy riding off. And I'll be honest, folks, and this was hard for me to share with my mom the first time, but she's heard it. I remember as I was riding my bike away, and I could see my mom, I'm pretty much just like this. I'm still mad, and I'm going to take off. I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but this is where I'm going to go. And as I started taking off, folks, I remember meeting many semis on that logging road. And out of the 10 of them, I feel like maybe half of them I thought about maybe steering into that next one. Hey? 13 years old, I already had that in my head. You know, let's just be done. But I figured I'm going to check out this town. I'm going to go check out this town. And folks, as I got into the town of Kenora, modest size, I couldn't have been further removed. Nobody waved at me. I don't even think I got any smiles. You know, folks just kind of went about their business. I had no real connecting interaction to make me feel welcome. Nothing that really looked like me. However, I did see many of my people there. When I say my people, I saw many Native people, and it almost in their kind of way was kind of distance. And I also saw a lot of our people, just like we do today here in Fargo, a lot of people in the streets. That was a reality even back then, 1984. So I had kind of this shaming distaste for this new town and this new place that I was in. And so I just figured, well, you know what, I'm going to take off. So I started riding my bike around, but then all of a sudden I get to this community center, and up in the field, up on the hill, I could see this baseball floating up in the air. So I'm like, I'm going to go check this out. So mitish apia jip meba man oandu tabanes. My little car, I rode my little car. And as I got up the hill, I noticed there were 5 boys playing ball. Looked to be about my age, right? So what does Ricky do? I just kind of parked my bike up there, right? And I had braids at the time, a little baseball hat, and I'm just kind of stoic like that. The one boy's behind the plate, and he's just kind of sitting there, and he's behind the plate, and he cracks the ball. And I was right behind that backstop where that fence is, behind home plate. And he cracks the ball, and he kind of looks at me, and then he goes again, and he cracks the ball again. And this time, that guy walked all the way around the fence, and he comes up to me, and he says, hey, we're short some players. You want to play ball? And folks, I spoke English, no question about it, right? And I'm like, yeah, right? Yeah, I want to play ball. And he goes, come on and play. We're short. That's Ryan Raynard there. That's Troy Carlson. There's Kyle Ferguson. There's Chad Walston. Come on out and play. Folks, I had a glorious afternoon. It was brilliant, hey, playing ball. They kind of teased me a little bit about the hair, like it was kind of new, right? Like what's up with the hair, I said, well, it's braid. It's a native thing, it's respect, honor, right? Family. And, I didn't quite know what that was all about, but we went on with our day. All of a sudden, 4:30 in the afternoon hits, and they're like, we're done. We've got to go home and have dinner with our families. I'm like, what? No, yeah, we got to go home and have dinner with our families. I'm like, man, you guys are crazy. No, we got to go home and have dinner. So I'm like, okay. But just then, Robbie says to me, Ricky, but come down the hill with me. I want to show you where I live. So we ride our bikes down the hill, and there's Robbie's house, and it's 2 stories high. And I'm thinking to myself, holy man, you must be rich. On the res, I never saw anybody with 2 stories of house, right? And he's like, I ain't rich. My dad's a cop, and my mom, she works at a clothing store, McTaggart's downtown. I'm like, okay. But Robbie says to me, Ricky, come back here tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock. We're going to play ball again. It's supposed to be beautiful out. I'm like, all right. So I ride my bike home, 16 miles, folks. And as I get close to home, there's my mom. And I swear, folks, I see her face, and just like I saw it today on FaceTime, still looking like she's still healing from those wounds of that December 24th. At that point in 1984, I could still see the bruising. I think the stitches and the cuts were just kind of healing 6 months later. But I remember the sorrow on her face when she was seeing me, not knowing where I was all day, not knowing anything or what I was doing. 8 hours, I'm gone. But again, I remember what Grandma told me. You want to connect, you want to lift somebody, give them this. Give them this. And I gave my mom this big smile. And folks, it was like a shower of relief when I, just like it was a connection. I went in and I told her, hey, I met some buddies. I went on to tell her that, hey, I played ball. It's like hope was all of a sudden in a room where it wasn't for months, and I'll even say for some time. We had some really great conversations. Well, where was I the next morning, folks? 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm already at Robbie's house. I'm at Robbie's house, right? Rode my bike 16 miles, 7 in the morning. It's still kind of, you know how it is, right? It's kind of dark, but I'm not just at his house. I'm across the street in the bush behind this big tree, and I'm looking at his house like that, waiting for lights to come on, right? And lights kind of came on, and I'm thinking, okay, it's now the time. So I'm thinking, yeah, it is. It's about time. So, so I rode my little car. Over the road. I remember getting by Robbie's house, and I parked my bike upside his house, and he had this deck that kind of got up to the front door. Walked up the stairs, and I got to Robbie's front door, and I walked right into his house. And there's his mom, Linda. She's in her pink robe, towel around her head, and she's just staring at this boy, and there's Ricky with his and what did Grandma say? I'm just like, hey, I'm just smiling, right? She didn't say a word to me. Next thing you know, out walks Sergeant Bob Adamson, full uniform, sits at the table, has his coffee, and he's just eyeballing me like, who in the heck are you, boy, kind of thing, right? Didn't say anything to me. Next thing you know, Corinne, older sister Corinne, younger brother Ryan, and then finally Robbie. And they're sitting at the table, and Robbie's like, yeah, that's my buddy Ricky, and, blah, blah, blah. I told him to pick me up and all of this. And so we go and we start riding to play ball. Robbie stops me, and he says, hey, Rick, you got to knock before you come in, right? You got to knock before you... Folks, I had no idea. Back home on the res, many of our homes had blankets over the door. Like, if you had a doorknob, holy man, you're really raking it in. But this sense of knocking didn't happen. I had no clue about this cultural norm or this expectation or this teaching. I had no clue about it. Didn't know. So I said, oh, okay. We played ball again all day. Glorious. 4:30 in the afternoon hits again. We've got to go home and have dinner with our family. 4:30 all summer. That's what we do. I'm thinking, you guys are nuts. Nope, we got to go home and have dinner. But Robbie says to me again, though, hey, Rick, but come pick me up tomorrow morning, though. It's supposed to be beautiful again. We're going to play ball. I'm like, all right. This time I go and I ride my bike home. And now I start telling my mom, and and when I'm getting there, I'm just like this, eh? I'm just like, oh my goodness, I'm kind of laughing, right? So our home is changing. And then we start having conversations like, there's some things you're going to have to learn about this new culture. Folks, there is no word for I'm sorry in our native languages. There's no word for it. Does it mean we don't make mistakes? Talk to my partner, right? She'll tell you I make mistakes all the time, right? But the intent is in the language, it invites you to work it out. We're not going to send a Snapchat. We're not going to, send a tweet, or the way that the teaching is, we're going to figure out this problem solving together. We'll figure it out and work through it. That's why there's no word for I'm sorry. There's also no word for you're welcome. You're welcome, because as a people, culturally, again, every one of our nations, no word for it, because the intent of giving and helping, it's implied, it's expected. So you don't need to say you're welcome. It's already understood. Hey? So folks, these things we just didn't know. And my mom said, yeah, there's some stuff you're going to have to learn about this new world, this new culture. And I'm thinking, all right, okay. Where was Ricky, though, the next morning? 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock in the morning, 16 miles. There I am again, outside Robbie's house, across the street in the bush, behind this big oak tree. Unfortunately, it's not there anymore. They built the golf course there. But hey, it's there. But I'm there, and I'm looking, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting. And I figured, now's the time. Rode my little car. Over the road. And parked it upside his house. And I remember walking up the stairs, and I got to Robbie's front door. I knocked on the door, and I walked right into the house, right? Walked right into the house. This time, the whole family are sitting at the table eating breakfast. What does Ricky do? The kitchen's right there. Poured myself some juice, some toast, and I'm just like, This time, Robbie's like, I got this, Mom. I've got this. Robbie comes over, and he pulls me aside, and he says, hey, Rick, when you knock, you've got to wait for someone to answer. You've got to wait for someone to answer. Folks, I had no clue. I had no clue about these expectations of me. You all are going to be receiving folks that are probably at their worst at times, depending on what your work is. And you're probably might have some folks that just don't know what they don't know about the expectations that we might have here. Okay? You look at early immigrants that are here. You look at folks that don't even speak this language that we're speaking. How do we work through that? Relationships, folks. How are you creating belonging? How are you going to make that connection? So maybe it's your cultural intelligence that also needs to lead that. I'm asking you and giving you a little nudge, a helpful nudge. Because can you imagine if this happened instead? Can you imagine if Robbie's mom, that first day that I walked into the house, can you imagine if she did this to me instead? Get out of here. Get out of here, you dirty, rotten Indian. You disrespectful little, you know what? Get the heck out of my house. Whew. Teach that boy a lesson, right? He should know better. Whew. What would that have done to an already half fully broken Ricky, who already earlier that day was thinking about steering into a few semis? And that being my first experience with a new place, just because apparently I made a mistake. Hey, think about that, folks. We have a lot of rules. We have a lot of guided things. We have policy. Yes, I know we have laws. I'm not saying we don't want to break any of those. And I'm saying we might need to do a little more relating and a little more understanding, because there might be some folks that just may not know all of that. Because I'm telling you, as somebody that's now 52 years old, going to be 53, I still don't know everything. And that's the wonderful thing about learning, eh? If I just sat here and told you everything that I know, you're going to hear and you're going to listen because I know everything, man, you're already out the door, you know? But I am telling you, as a vulnerable person, I am open to learning many, many more things. And with that, I've learned a few languages, especially the greeting, you know, hola, ¿cómo estás? You know, je m'appelle Monsieur Blanche, you know, Niao Zhang, Kulumbe Mr. White, or Kulumbe Ricky White, you know, that's Hmong, you know. I also know Assalamu Alaikum. You know, I was an executive director or superintendent of a charter school, downtown Minneapolis, 99% Somali. And I understood what that is. They brought me into their mosque. When I left there, I had mothers shaking my hand, which is something that doesn't happen unless you're literally maybe part of the family. That wasn't happening day one, folks. That wasn't happening day one. My conversations with most of the mothers was like this, and it was awesome, you know? But by the time 3-4 years happened, and they knew where I was coming from, my cultural intelligence, maybe putting me present with those folks, it was a lot different, eh? It was different. Folks, I can't tell you that everything worked out perfect, but I can tell you this. There's my sandlot. Yeah, this was 2 years ago. Don't mind what Ryan, he's actually the mayor. He's like literally the main guy, the guy holding that can there, you know. But that's Troy Carlson, police officer, Southern Ontario. That's Robbie right there next to him, Lake Life. This was 2 years ago in July, right? 50-year-old kind of reunion. That's Ryan Raynard, Kyle Ferguson, Chad Walston. Oh, by the way, Ryan Raynard, yeah, big city guy, right? Probably going to be the mayor, you know. Kyle Ferguson, principal, you know, educator. Chad Walston was here, but he's a captain, pilot for WestJet Airlines. Folks, I was invited to be here, and I should have been in this picture. But here's something that I will tell you about all 4 of these guys, including Chad. I visited and grew up with these boys. A lot of folks will tell me, man, Ricky, you're pretty lucky, right? You know, like you could have gotten your butt thrown out by Linda, you know, could have been any home, whatever, you know, you're pretty lucky that you met these group of boys, that they accepted you, brought you in, and did all these things. I say, folks, I was not lucky. Because when I had dinner with these guys, what I didn't realize was breaking at 4:30, they were going home and they were having dinner with their families. And you know what? They had training. I heard them talk frequently at their kitchen table, treat others how you want to be treated. Treat thy neighbor well. I even saw that beautiful black book out and as a guide, because there's beautiful teachings there, just like I've read in the Quran, just like Native American teachings. And folks, all of these teachings, I'm not saying, hey, but I'm just saying, hey, lots of good teachings there. What is good for Native Americans is good for everyone. Just like many cultures teach, the golden rule, hey? Treat others how you want to be treated. Treat others well, hey? And that's what I learned sitting at these guys' tables. I can call them today, and I usually call Robbie. I will call Robbie today, and I'll say, hey, Robbie, you're famous again, brother. You know, thousands of people have heard that Robbie Adamson story. And you know what that guy says to me every time? Hey, Rick, we learned from you just as much as you learned from us. And folks, that's why I didn't throw my butt out. They looked at me and said, you know, this guy's a little different. Maybe we should teach him a little bit. Maybe we should learn from him a little bit. And it was the same in the schools. Showing up to school in braids and wondering, hey, who is this guy? And I got teased to beat hell, folks. I tell you what, hey? But here, folks, this is why I wasn't there. This is why I wasn't there. I was busy burying my brother that day, that very beautiful Saturday. And this is a picture of me and holding my braid, folks. Here's a teaching for you. This braid is a very close, familial, and sacred part of who we are. My braid is braided every morning by my partner, the one that is closest to me, the one that knows everything on what we do and how we function. It would be disrespectful and dishonoring to her if I just let any woman in here touch my hair and braid it. You know, even if we're cordial and good friends, that would be the same towards my mom. It'd be disrespectful to her, my sisters, my daughter, my aunties, my grandparents, you know, these folks that love and care for you in that way. Because folks, in this 3 braid, we often say, and this is a teaching, again, folks, these are static and fluid teachings. Might be a little different, home to home, tribe to tribe, but overall, very similar in a sense that first strand in your left hand, gonna love you. Be a loving and caring person today. Be a good person. That middle strand, be brave. Be brave to make good choices. Be brave to be a good person. Be brave, right? To be honorable, kind, all of those things. And the last one, of course, I'm going to say a little prayer for you. Imagine all 3 of those things every single day. I grew up that way. I grew up hearing those things. My sisters, yeah, they'd get at me a little bit. I was a little fuzzy, you know, needed to wake up a little earlier, right? But it teaches all of those familial things, folks, right there in my head. But it also is a symbolic piece of this relationship that we have had. And when I lost my brother, what you will typically see from Native people is that's the only time that we cut our sacred hair in that way. So this is at my kitchen table when I came home from that beautiful ceremony. And my partner, she cut my braid, and that's me holding it. And that's why I wasn't in that Sandlot photo. And this is me saying, it's been a good life, my friend. It's been an honor having this time with you. I'm gonna have good memories with you. And yes, I need to keep trying to live a good life. Okay? In the background, you can see a suitcase. I was slid his regalia, his grass dance regalia outfit by his wife and his daughter. You see, folks, this guy that I call my brother, he's my cousin. Ryan White, born June 7th, 1971. Ricky White, born May 30th, 1971. We weren't born from the same parents, but because we grew up with each other basically from the crib. In Native people and Native ways, our family is extended like that. Our close cousins are like our siblings. Our aunts and uncles are like our parents. Our grandparents are, again, extended family in that way, could be our parents, but every elder is like a grandparent to us. Honorable, respected, deeply cherished in that way. So folks, this is how that happened on that day. So if you see a Native friend and you notice they may have their beautiful hair that's cut right down, because I remember when my daughter first saw me with my hair, she said, "Dad, you kind of look like Lord Farquaad now, you know, from Shrek, it was kind of like this." But she knew the teaching, because it's now, in 2 years, I'm up to a 10 braid, folks. But that is that significance of hair. So when I was at Cass County Jail, they said, "So Ricky, when we search, we got to also search the braid." I said, "What a wonderful thing you can do now. You can say, hey, I was in a training with a guy named Ricky White, and he told me how sacred your hair is. I don't want to disrespect, but I know how honorable it is with that hair and that braid. I'm thankful for that teaching, and I still need to search your braid." I got calls the following week from the captain and whatnot, the folks working at the jail. They said, "Ricky, that really de-escalated things. We still got to unfortunately have things happen, you know. But what emotion. That is cultural intelligence in action, folks. Okay? Your bourgeois, as we can't say that that's small. Folks, that is massive. Your bourgeois, if that's what you leave here with in some of the storylines, that is this in action. You are applying Native American best practices right there. I wish the story didn't end there, folks. Because what I came to find out, and I don't want you leaving here today thinking my dad was a terrible, terrible animal for things that happened. But you see, my dad is a survivor of what's called the boarding school era. My dad, what I found out recently, what happened to Native people, if we were all Native in this room right now, and children, half of you at least would have been put in these schools, and even more of you likely would not have made it home. Boarding schools functioned right here in this area. Many of them right here in the state of North Dakota and every state, especially where Native people were congregated. And folks, these schools, this is not CRT, critical race theory, or calling anybody racist or having anybody go back and shame that back in time. But folks, what this simply is fact that this happened. And I can't have you leave here thinking my dad was my mom would say it to me, there's no excuse for what he did. That's unacceptable. And I remember seeing my dad. I remember saying, Dad, why can't you cut the bottle? Why the alcoholism, the brutality, the violence, all these things, why can't you give that up? And you know what he said to me? He said, son, when my eyes close at night and when they awaken in the morning, I am just struck with guilt. And I'm like, guilt? Why? Why guilt? And he said, guilt, because I could not protect my younger brothers and sisters from what was being done to me and what happened to me that I know was also happening to them. You see, in these schools, folks, your hair was cut, you were put in uniform, and these boarding schools, or residential schools as they were called in Canada, same thing, same plan. You lived there, and you did not get to go home. And this was well over 100 years that these things happened. First one opened in 1879. And the last one closed in 1997. And folks, these schools, again, ravaged our people. Because when you have an Indian problem, as it was documented, what better way to fix that problem than to go after the kids? Let's destroy their spirit. Because when my dad spoke his language in school, he was slapped. He was beaten. When my aunties, wanted to go home, they were beaten. And folks, there were other things done to them as well in the hollows of that school. And many, as some of you may or may not be aware today, many are dead and buried at these schools. Every one of these boarding schools and residential schools had a cemetery right beside the school. You see, our high school students can handle this content, especially when we smudge. And I say to them, imagine right here at North High, instead of building that beautiful brand new football field and thing that we got going on there, imagine that being a stadium. And half of the students that are here are buried in that stadium that attended this school over the years. Take that home, folks. Imagine the separation and the things and the loss of parenting that has happened and the loss of spirit, community, identity. And now you begin to understand why we can count literally on our hands and toes the amount of people that actually know their language and even know some of these beautiful teachings that you've heard today. Because the vast majority of people that you will end up meeting that are Native likely don't. That's the reality of where we are. Yeah, that's the reality of where we are. I lost my uncle to suicide. My kindergarten photo right now, 3/4 of them are gone. 3/4 of them are gone. The average life expectancy is in the mid-40s now, if you're Native, if you're born Native. There is an epidemic known as the murdered and missing Indigenous women. I'm not sure if you know this, folks, but in the state of North Dakota and Minnesota just recently released a study on this. 27 to 54 Indigenous women and girls go missing a month since 2010. Think about that. Since 2010, 27 to 54 go murdered or missing. How many in this room? I have, a female daughter, okay? And I fear every day, just because she's born brown and Native, that there is a chance and a risk that she'd be one of those statistics. 27 to 54. So much so that now today, in the state of Minnesota, in the capital, they now have an office titled Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women. Okay? You see, folks, we call it regalia, not costumes. Regalia is sacred. Our languages are sacred. I love Chief Wahoo. I love the Kansas City Chiefs. I love the Atlanta Braves. I love all of those things. But there is bad messaging that gets sent out in education, that we're just some wild, uncivilized people that don't know nothing other than poverty. Most of our people will say that. I thought my culture was poverty. And folks, the lineage of this right here, I know for time, this is the originator who announced on our Senate floor here in the United States that I have a pathway on how to solve the Indian problem, and that is, let's kill the Indian and save the man. Erase everything that is native, and let's just save the person, assimilate them, eradicate them, remove them, put them on reservations, do whatever we can, but give the children to us, and we will beat it out of them. That's what we'll do. These schools were all over, and in this school here, folks, once again, you can draw a line right up the middle, and let's just say all those children on the left, you are dead. Yeah. The youngest children that they found, I saw handcuffs. I visited the school. It's Carlisle Indian School in Pennsylvania. I saw handcuffs barely the size of this, maybe 6 months old was the youngest. They're now starting to find, they're using technology, and they're visiting the sites of these schools, because, folks, would it surprise you that there are over 500 of these schools right here in the United States, over 500 of them that functioned the way that I just named it to you over 130 years, okay? Would it surprise you at that? And would it surprise you now that there is technology going to be used, and they're visiting these sites, and they're using ground penetrating technology, and they are finding mass graves? You probably heard in Canada recently, about a year ago, 215 bodies of children found in a mass grave. This is what the reality of our people have lived with for many years. And so when I have buddies who say to me, why can't you people just get a job? It isn't that the abilities aren't there, folks, but just think of the number of generations of parenting that were lost because it just wasn't happening. And then the attack on language, culture, identity, that how do you even begin to function when you don't even know who you are? I didn't even know that I was supposed to knock on a door, that was polite. I had no clue. But these are the realities that our people end up facing, folks. And it's now in many studies. This is Dr. Emily Sargent. She's local, Sanford Health, and works primarily in trauma. And here are some of the things that, again, is known on some of the things that have happened as a result of such loss and brutality. You look at all of these, it is evident in the vast majority of our families that this is what's happening. And you look at that second to last bullet, broken family structures. You know, you get brutalized in such a way, there's things that are going to happen, and that, unfortunately, is one of the bigger things that have happened. It's not that we don't love our kids, folks. We are desperately trying to find a manner of balance to where we can utilize our own way as a guide. It is lost. We are the only culture that I know of that have this going on right here in Fargo. And it's all over the place, folks. NDSU just announced they're offering positive parenting classes for Native families. You know, Native Inc. just offered one recently. The only culture that I know that need help with positive parenting. Because when all that you have grown up with has been poverty, homelessness, and again, a lineage of that undescribable thing that I shared in my Christmas Eve, things are going to happen, folks. How do we bridge through that? We need help. We need some recognition, let's say, a lift in our spirit. I almost tilted my bike half dozen times into a semi, and it just took some basic relation. And that was maybe accidental, but I think there was some training there. There was some knowing there of these boys and their family, and let's just say this community that launched me into literally saving my life. Literally saving my life. Yeah, this is all very relevant. ACEs study, if you ever do this, it's online, it's 10 questions. I recently sat on a panel of professionals right here in Fargo, and we're still doing the work. And the Native Americans, we all took this test, and we scored an average of 8 out of 10. I'll tell you, I scored a 9 out of 10 on this. The only thing that I did not have was sexual molestation in my home. Everything else I did. I experienced all of those things. They say if you score more than a 3 on this, you have some stuff going on. There's some things that are happening, some challenges that you might have and things that you need to work through. I will say the vast majority, you look at that engagement center, I would put this in there, and I wonder what their scores would be. I guarantee you it's probably a good chunk of them are scoring 10s. Things that have happened. Do we just coddle them and feel sorry? No, but we need to find a pathway on how to help them get on a road of healing. Folks, here it is. You know, another medicine wheel for you. When we feel like we belong, put this up on your doors. You feel respected, you feel supported, you feel accepted, you feel included, folks. This is absolutely what our people need and what everybody needs. Our superintendent here in Fargo Schools, he had a student leadership team, and it was made up of a variety of cultures. 3/4 were black and brown, and of course there were non-native there as well. There were white students there too. And he announced this at our staff opening in August. And he said, belonging is going to be a big part of what we need to focus on in Fargo Schools. Because he talked to that student group about all 4 of these things. And then he asked students to stand up if they feel like these things are functioning and happening in our school district. He said all the white kids stood up and not one black and brown kid stood. Doesn't mean that we are the R word, folks, or that we're terrible or mean or anything. There's just some things that we just don't know that we don't know. And maybe we need to know a little more about our neighbor and about the folks that we are serving. That's something of an invitation to you. I don't want to challenge you. That is, we can say that too. Mike, I want to challenge you. Your training thing here, these folks have no clue what they just were, that's, holy man, that's, another thing we don't do, folks, we don't point like that. Native people, this is, instead what we do is, how you doing? You point with your lips like that. I often say people from my res, they point for miles, but that's another humorous thing, humor, so we point with the lips. So if you're meeting with a Native family or something, say, hey, let's meet over here. And they may not notice you doing that, but point it out again. Hey, elevator speech. I was in a training recently with a guy, and he said pointing with lips is a respectful thing. Folks, that is another connection. I was working with Prairie here, and some of the counselors there, working with groups of young girls that were suicidal, and they were saying, we cannot just get them to even come into our circle. I said, next time, do this to them and say, hey, let's meet over here and point with your lips. She did that and the girls were like, what are you doing? You know, and she said, I was in a training with the guy, Ricky White, and he told me about lip pointing. She said, we had the most glorious session together that we've ever had. This stuff works, folks. This stuff really works. And I know we're over time. This guy had it right. Native people right now, with everything that has happened, the bottom three of Maslow is really where we end up struggling. This is where you see a lot of our people at our worst. It's not that we don't want to remove this, but it is those bottom three, you know, your shelter, your security, your food, you know, because that top two is where we expect everybody to function, and we can't even get there if we don't start really looking at the bottom three of Maslow. And folks, I just want to say this. I include this slide everywhere I go. Are there any veterans in here? Any veterans? Again, yeah. Let's give a round of applause, folks, to these veterans. Thankful for your service and everything that you've had to do, your families. And in that warrior way, folks, you know, on the battlefield, you know, if one of your comrades was wounded or injured on the battlefield, what would you do? I ask veterans this all the time. They say, we're going to go after them. We're going to bring them home. Bring them home, right? What if they're deeply wounded? What if they're mortally wounded? Go after them anyway. Bring them home, right? What if they don't want to be saved? We're going to drag them out of there and bring them home, right? So that warrior way, folks, we're going to do whatever we can, but we're going to try to do everything possible where we won't leave anyone behind. So again, that wondering and question when you've been exposed to all of this, what are you willing to do? What are you prepared to do now that you know and have heard from me here today? Folks, it's been an honor. The tobacco offering will go far and wide. And what we typically do with this tobacco offering, folks, is I'll make that offering back to the earth, typically right within our home area, a tree or something on the land. I'll be making that offering back to everything that we all encompass. So that's that relational piece. But before I go, I know this won't help the online portion. I'm deeply honored to have shared with all of you here today. This is a hand drum. That's what we call it, because we hold it in our hand. Oftentimes, folks wonder about our drum. We really call it the heartbeat of our people. It is the heartbeat of our people. The songs bring us together. It's made from elk hide, and it was made by a gentleman named Gus Claymar, a good friend of mine. And you know, the songs that we sing, folks, really resonate with the spirit of what we've been doing. So typically when we get together, yes, we get sacred in ways from our ancestors, the use of our tobacco or smudge. Then we culminate that at times with something, again, a little deeper. So as I sing this song here today, the words in the song, Gasha Wenda Gibanan, our spirit of how we treat each other is really how we're going to have a good life, how we're going to get through a lot of our challenges. I've had 5 shots in my arm, probably going to get 6. That's just the choice in my family that we made during this sick time, you know, these last few years. But back home, they talk about we're really not truly going to get through this if we don't start treating each other better. You know, we look at everything, the news, this stuff that go on. It's typically in our relational way. We become very poor problem solvers. Instead, it's usually violent or arguing or tweeting or something of that nature. So the word is, let's love and care for each other a little more. So, with that, before I sing, especially the folks who are really your first time, I went to a Catholic wedding recently, and my 3rd time ever in a church. And I've never knelt and stood so many times in my life, right? I don't know what I was doing, but I just followed along. And then I heard that guy, that priest speak, and it was beautiful and glorious. And of course, I found out a little later why we're kneeling and standing so much. So I need to give you some guidance. Just sit during this song. There's times when we get together, ceremony or special times, even at powwow, where you'll hear that MC say, everybody please stand, and you'll be given that guidance at that point. So I'll just ask you to sit, and as I sing this song, think about that journey we went on, seeing things, feeling it. I encourage you to do something with the things that you shared, elevator speeches, right? Apply some of this knowledge and this intelligence. It's yours, by the way. Use it, okay? And look for that slide deck, and maybe a YouTube video to once again invite you to go on your own journey with some of this learning, okay? So I want to say me much, everybody, and here's the song. Everybody, thank you. Have a good day. I'll stick around for any questions, or I don't know if that's how we normally do things, but enjoy your time. I hope everything all good. Okay.